Hello YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. Um, how's it going? This is Saturday about 11:51, a little later on tonight. February either 4th or 5th, again I can't remember which one exactly. Um, Saturday. Um, I put out a fair number of videos so far about fantasy and supernatural stuff. This is another one. It's one of my favorite subjects, it's true I'm a musician by trade, but one of my big hobbies are all things fantasy and supernatural, but especially fantasy. So um, I'm going to make a separate video in the future at some point more about Dungeons and Dragons as far as all the monsters and things that are in different editions and what I personally think of them and how I would use them, that sort of thing. But that's going to be for a different video. Dungeons and Dragons really opened up. They really went to town on all these different kinds of creatures, and that's a good thing. It's great to have all these, a wider variety of things to sometimes uh, have already thought up for some folks when they're creating adventures and things. So anyway, I was going to, on this video, rate different fantasy and supernatural creatures that are more commonly known. Um, and so you're not going to hear anything in here that's just in Dungeons and Dragons alone. These are creatures that I think go well beyond just that kind of thing. And some of them are everybody knows about. Some of them maybe only some people know about. But again, they're a little bit more well known. Most of these. And I'm going to not only give a rating, but I'll explain why, of course, and how I'd use them and that sort of thing. So, starting out with the most obvious of all fantasy creatures, other than I suppose humans aren't really fantasy, but we are the main, most common, sometimes creature in fantasy, uh, aside from humans. So, very first off, you can probably guess what the first one is: dragons. Dragons I rated, and again, I should be honest, I actually went up to 12, not in scale 1 to 10. I went up to 12 at the very top. And 12 being just what I thought was the very best fantasy creature of all time. And dragons got 11. So there's one other kind of creature that's even better than the dragon. Um, Dragons can fly, they can breathe fire, they're huge, they're extremely. They don't. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons had to create the Trask as a creature that was the creature of creatures that would. But dragons are essentially commonly known as the most powerful fantasy creature, other than, I suppose, the gods or demons, certain demons or pit fiends or okay. Dragons are. Let's just say dragons are, for all practical purposes, the most commonly thought of most powerful creature out there. And so, dragons can mean different things to different countries. They're a very universal kind of um, image or idea. And they can breathe fire, they can fly, they're intelligent, extremely intelligent. They're immeasurably strong. The claws, they can just kill, just wipe out entire armies, villages. So I think, again, it goes without saying, in the Western world, in Europe, and sort of thing, maybe much of the Middle East, we see dragons as being evil, and in Asia, Eastern world, East Asia, a lot of times dragons are seen in more positive light. Certainly, we've got to the point now where we have the great thing about dragons is there's no telling what morality a dragon will be in Dungeons and Dragons, although there's kind of the more colorful dragons are probably going to be evil, and the metallic dragons are good, gold, silver, bronze. Of course, they're purple dragons. People have written stories about purple dragons being kind, and they're all kinds of different ideas. But so it's just you can keep having story after story after story, movie after movie after movie about dragons. Dragons, it'll never get old. It'll never get old. That's any rating, by the way, that's above 9, especially above 9, 9 to 12. I think you could have endless movies about those creatures, and we never tire of them. And yeah, so dragons are awesome in my opinion. They're great. I'd never tire of them. And you have smaller dragons, you have wyverns, and I think we've developed enough. There's enough characters out there in fantasy fiction. There's enough ideas about dragons that we have a really rich um, um, to create additional or new characters that are dragons. It isn't. It's not hard to have unique characters that still are draconic or at heart of the dragon. So anyway, one of the best kinds of creatures out ever. I never again, So I love them, but they're scary a lot. Yeah, yes, I don't know. They're huge. Unicorns are a 10. And as much as I love unicorns, they're kind of seen in kind of a don't hurt me. They're fragile. They're beautiful and everything. I love them, but I only gave them a 10 out of 12. But I think there's they can still have more movies with them as long as there's some movies that have the qualities about unicorns that are more angelic rather than cutesy. Okay, I already mentioned that before in a different video. All right. So Pegasi. I just love the idea of a white horse with wings. I'm not sure why. It's great. It's great stuff. You can do all kinds of things with that idea. But I gave Pegasi 11. But even better than that is a combination of unicorn and a Pegasi, which is a pegacorn. And that was, you probably guessed, my 12. It's my favorite fantasy creature is a pegacorn. Really is. It combines the best of qualities of unicorns with their horn and the wings of the Pegasi. And they can use them in battle. And they're good and they're exciting, and you can fly in them. And it's what we, I think, all want out of the combination of the two. So they have the wildness of the Pegasi and the angelic nature of the unicorn. So centaurs, give them a 9. Other than elves, a very commonly found forest creature. Body of a horse, or at least the lower body of a horse, and the torso, head of a man. I guess they commonly have crossbows they've used. If not crossbows, then bows and arrows. I think it's one of the two. Use crossbows. I give them a 9. You can still do a lot with centaurs. They're essentially kind of a foresty version of a man that's faster. I think their culture is more like a tough guy rather than the super refined thing about the elves. But centaurs are still kind of into astronomy or astronomy, whatever. They're pretty thoughtful folks. There's still a lot of untapped ideas with centaurs. We still only have so much root. There's not too many centaur personalities out there that have been written about. Harry Potter, it has a lot of these creatures that exist in the stories, which is one of the strong points of Harry Potter, by the way. You have so many different kinds of fantasy creatures, but there's not a lot out there. There's not a lot of centaurs. There's a lot of dragons, and there's some unicorns, not hardly any Pegasi or pegacorns, but not too many centaurs really either. Minotaurs, also the same thing. There's not too many minotaurs by name. I can't think how you really. I just know that they come up here and there. Minotaurs I only gave an 8. They're kind of a brute, like the thug brute type guy. Anyway, so Sphinxes I gave a 9 because of their ability to the riddling thing. And again, dragons I think are very fond of these kinds of brainy things. Sphinxes though, I give it a 9. I think there's a lot of possibilities still with Sphinxes. What you could do with them. Phoenixes, same thing. I give it a 9. Maybe it's a little bit too high, but I'm not talking about how powerful these creatures are. I'm talking about what you could do with them in fantasy fiction. But a phoenix, there's just a lot of, other than fox, again, we don't have a lot of, and Sphinx the same thing, we don't have a lot of prior characters that are those guys. Griffins, same thing, only give an 8. They're a great idea of a giant eagle type creature. But now the genie, of course, goes without saying, Aladdin has the most famous genie. But I give genies a 10. because they're essentially very, very intelligent, sentient, essentially human-ish, and can have all sorts of different personalities. There's all kinds of possibilities there. Gnomes, I gave an 8. Maybe that's a little bit extreme. It could probably be a 9. It probably should be a 9. But gnomes, sometimes they're kind of. I'm too prone to see them in kind of a halfling esque meets something shorter, hermit like kind of light. So they're kind of pigeonholed a little bit in kind of like the little guy idea, the little collector or something. You know, the fat little guy who, says mine, mine. I don't know, or the chubby little cherub. That's whatever. So, but there's still some possibilities there. I'm very fond of gnomes personally. A garden gnome is a little different, but it's similar. I love garden gnomes too, but dwarves are even ranked a little lower, in my opinion, at 7. I think, in all honesty, I know that the rivalry with regular high elves, say more, taller elf type, in Tolkien has fantasy. The rivalry between dwarves and elves is one of the reasons why everyone is so fond of the Tolkien. It's a big thing. All right, I don't know, it's a big thing. But dwarves, let's be honest, are kind of knuckleheads, and they're just the short jocks. I mean, they're the short, tough guys. So you have a bunch of big boys, let's say in a traveling party, some big boys, some maybe, I don't know, beautiful healer, mage, something, woman. And then you have your short, tough guy. He's the dwarf, but he's still got lots of muscle, right? That's kind of there's a real stereotype about the dwarf being a fighter, and that's one of the things that Dragon Age tried to do, by the way, is to break away from that with the dwarf mage, with that one girl that wanted to be a magic user. She was shunned, and it was kind of obvious, but yeah. So obviously, they're trying to go a different direction there. To be honest, it's hard to get away from the stubborn thing with dwarves. That's one of their establishing characteristics, but it's hard to get away from Wyland, kind of this maybe Scottish-ish meets Irish, kind of Celtic dwarf type personality of sorts, or kind of a, something along those lines, or, he's going to split your head in two unless you say a certain word that's, just so it's hard to get away from that. And so that's why I ranked him as a 7, even though they're memorable. But you can still do other things with them. But I think you have to be really... It can be tricky to have original characters and still have them convincingly dwarven-like. So, a little bit. House elves are definitely 10. Because, Harry Potter just showed you a glimpse of what you could do with these different personalities. The little guy that's not doesn't have to be a standoffish gnome or hard to find gnome, likes to hide. They will just say, right. Some of them are cheerful, some of them are cutesy, some of them are all kinds of personalities. But they're kind of a little guy with a little pointy nose. And they'll leave a little presents or something. I think they're, I give them a 10. I think there's all kinds of things you can do with them still. And elves are only an 8, a little bit higher than dwarf, but to be honest, again, unless the character is really super refined or into healing or arts, or an elvish character, they're not going to be brutes, they're going to be your aesthetic types, and woodland, forest archers types, whatever. So you could expect that. So again, it's your expectation. If you encounter an elf who's a tough guy, a brute, you're like, oh, they're trying to go the obvious other direction with this guy. And there you go. So, only gave him an 8. Orcs, 7. They're just brutes. If you go outside of that direction, okay, you're trying to be different, right? Ogres, 7. To be honest, ogres are just a bigger version of orcs. They're kind of toward the giant, but they're even dumber. Right? Trolls, I gave an 8 because you have Norwegian, the little tiny troll guy idea, kind of like goblins. With the colorful hair, you have like scarier goblins that have maybe a skinnier but very sinewy, still very, very strong, but they don't They look really massive. And you have the cave trolls are really big and stone-like and they're huge. They have all kinds of trolls physically. Um, some that can resemble trees. And a lot of it's we like Norway a lot of times, and so the more that someone likes Norwegian um, mythology, folklore stuff, the more I think for me troll. The idea of a troll is very associated with Norse fantasy and mythology and folklore, particularly some of the scarier aspects of yeah Nordic stuff. So that way, so I like trolls. I think there's some potential. Perhaps I was a little bit harsh on trolls being an 8. It could be actually 9 because compared to them, ogres are kind of idiots, right? Trolls I think are a little bit. They can be a little bit more cunning and a little more frightening that way. So shapeshifters I gave it a 9, but maybe I put too much stock in shapeshifters. Maybe it's too easy or it's too easy of a device. I think sometimes to have a character who's able to take out on any form they want to. It takes some of the. It makes things very easy to explain. Why certain things that are hard to explain can be explained. And this is again one of the general complaints about people with fantasy and magic and things. And so you have to shapeshifting can be overdone, but there's some rules there. I can get into that whole thing, but I still like them a lot. They're not quite a 10. I give them a 9 because as long as they can't do anything, as long as they can't turn it into just anybody. So hags I gave a 10 because of how frightening they can be, and they're like a witch with the added dimension of like a giant, with an added dimension of some like a troll-like character, like a female troll-like character. Just think a female troll. Trolls and hags are similar, but the hags are just the female version of the troll, kind of. And I'm great. I think they're great, but they're very, very frightening. I mean, just the image of a hag is just yeah. So giants and titans, I gave it a 9. It's kind of a basic concept, but there's still a lot of potential. That's Andre the Giant, right? The Princess Bride. You have your big dumb oaf, and you have your evil giants, you have your great giants, and you have your more refined titans. So there's like a big humanoid. I think there's some potential there because you don't have to act totally like jock-like. They don't have to be idiots. They don't have to be blockheads. They can be, there's something there. Anyway, demons and devils. I think maybe this isn't the right video to get into this because in the fantasy sense, we're kind of, you might think Dungeons and Dragons are actually two different, entities battling each other, the devils and the demons in that world. Basically just talking about the most evil of creatures, and so they're obviously going to be a 10 because there's all kinds of things you do with those creatures, and maybe images that they could look, things that they could appear to be looking like, but I wouldn't go any past 10 because I don't think they're not quite as memorable. It just depends on how they're treated. They're kind of, everyone knows about them, though, of course, because in a sense there's a religious side to this too. So yeah, so the Yeti, they're kind of more like ogres. It's just the snow version of an ogre, kind of, or some big, some big humanoid creature of some sort, humanoid-ish. Goblins I gave a 9 because you probably know why. It goes without saying. They're great little, scummy little, conniving little, yeah. You can have all kinds of goblins, all kinds of personalities. Werewolves only an 8, but there's still something to them. You can still do that hasn't been done, but don't make it too artificial and contrived. I think that a lot of times maybe if you go the route of what's a wolf's personality, combine a wolf with a human, but albeit a wolf that's very bloodthirsty. Like I guess the personality in a way of Wolverine in the X-Men. His personality is actually, interesting enough, a little bit like a werewolf. Wolverine, werewolf, so I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too cliche here, but there's still some things that haven't been done that really great. Dragon Age had some werewolf stuff that was going on with those guys. Halflings, I gave a 9. But it's the only main reason is because Lord of the Rings kind of really focused on halflings. So in this case, the hobbits, the J.R. Tolkien's word for the halflings, you kind of don't. Folks, just make sure that if you ever use the word hobbit in your fiction, make sure you credit J.K. Rowling. I mean, J.R. Tolkien. I'm not even sure you can use the word hobbit, so just say halfling, all right? Halfling. So zombies. I gave them an 8, but they're very overdone. Every single person, a lot of people have talked to you about these subjects before in any kind of context. This is one of the top 10 creatures I'll think of. Why? Because they're creating a dungeon and they want something, some creature in there to fight that is small enough that he can fit in a dungeon type environment, just like skeletons and you know the whole list of humanoid-esque size creatures, but the zombie, they are very overdone. But there's a lot of things that come out. Of course, was it saying, last 10 years really, all kinds of shows about zombies. It's been a zombie overload. Zombie overload. I think everybody's mentioned that. A lot of people mentioned that already on YouTube, so doesn't need to be even mentioned. However, because you've kind of gone the direction of the the inbred hick zombie and the you know what I'm trying to say. All the other kinds of things you could do with idea of zombies. It's kind of expanded the idea of what you can do with the character who's a zombie. It really has. Anyway, maybe to the point where people are asking themselves, what is a zombie anymore? Well, a zombie is still undead, and they don't have giant things like a vampire, but they kind of want to eat your brains. So if they don't want to eat your brains, it's kind of like so they want to eat brains. Wraiths, I think, are very, very frightening. I know wraiths and anything incorporeal, they're often seen. It's hard to distinguish them, like the banshee. Maybe I should put banshee in here, but essentially wraiths to me are they can be effective. But the hard part of it, is most of the time we don't know. Wraiths, when they're, for instance, the Dementors in Harry Potter, you never have a Dementor that goes by a certain name. They're just mass in mass bad guys, and it's kind of the same thing with wraiths. So it's one of the downsides to them, but they're still very, very frightening. It can be. Will-o'-the-Wisp is kind of along the same lines, but it's just still very mysterious. I think a lot of people find Ireland in general mysterious in some respects, in a good way, hopefully. It's scary, but just it's aesthetically pleasing. I love Ireland, but the Will-o'-the-Wisp being kind of that little glowing light out there. What is that thing? Is it gonna hurt you? What's going on there? So out there in the pond, So yeah, I love that idea. Sure. Vampires. I think there's still a lot more to do. You have Dracula, you have all the other guys. I still don't think it's still too tired of an idea. And believe me, I think that that being said, a lot of certain ideas about vampires have really not been good at all. And I think you know I think you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to tell you. I don't even need to tell you which vampire-related book series, movies I am talking about with the vampires that really aren't vampires. Yeah. So skeletons. Yeah. I gave them an 8. Oh, but I gave vampires a 9. But skeletons 8. They can do a lot of things with skeletons to make them funny creatures. And the Last Unicorn, there's a skeleton who was kind of a guardian of sorts for a castle. He was, what's the magic word? And he was kind of being a funny guy. He's a little bit annoying, but you can have them kind of like impish type characters, or they can be more menacing. But there's a wide variety of things you could do with them. Satyrs and fauns, they can be very mysterious, frightening, kind of like in the movie. It's gosh, tip my Pan's Labyrinth, of course. Um, so Pan's Labyrinth, but there's a lot of things you could do with, and of course there's a faun, Mr. Tumnus, and the Chronicles of Narnia. Satyr is basically just a bigger version of a faun. So I give him a 9. Giant spiders, I think I'd never get tired of that idea. There's all kinds of things you could do with them as well. I'll give him a 10. Nymphs is a 9 because they can run the gamut from very, very romantic idea to very playful, and just there's a wide variety, but we're talking essentially about more feminine type characteristics there. And same thing with fairies. The idea of a guy who's a fairy is very, well, are fairies a distinct race? Yeah, they're fae folk, so there are male fairies, but well, I don't know. I mean, obviously we have Tinkerbell and things, but most of the time I think we're thinking more of girls, but kind of like the whole nymph thing. They're all associated, but I think there's still enough. There's a lot of this is in Celtic folklore, and there's a lot of I guess there's a lot of things that haven't really been done still. I don't know. In this regard, I think there's still a lot of potential with fairies. You can do different things with dryads. I know this is kind of a longer movie. Okay. So with dryads, what is a dryad? Just a more naturey kind of nymph-like creature. I think we tend to think of nymphs before we think of dryads. Dryads are almost like a forest, feminine forest creature, even more than a nymph. They're a little bit less humanish. So I think, if you have nymphs and dryads, you know what we're talking about. But dryads are more reclusive even than nymphs. I don't know. I only gave them a 7. By the way, I gave fairies an 11. And again, nymphs 9. Mummies, I only gave a 6. I think if you're going to go that route, you might as well just have a bunch of zombies and have Mummy Lord or something. You have the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser and Dwayne The Rock Johnson and there. And that kind of did the creature justice, I think. But I don't know. I mean, like, maybe I'm a little harder on mummies, but I just don't think there's a whole lot you can do with them. If you're really into Egyptology or Egypt and all things Egyptian, yeah, it's great. It's just, well, it's kind of, the idea of mummies are very linked with Egypt. Maybe there's some potential there still. Merfolk. So I really just think after The Little Mermaid, what else can you do? You're always comparing every single creature to Triton the King or to Ariel. Sorry. My roommate. So, Medusa. There is a Medusa, and she's already been. We already know who she is, and I think the question is: are you going to have a race of Medusa-like? Is there a race, or is there only one individual who's like Medusa? That's always something I've been a little bit confused about myself. It seems like a silly thing to be confused about, but well, we have basilisks and things that can petrify you, and they're snakes. In this case, in the case of Medusa, we have a woman. We think it's a woman. She looks like a woman. It looks like a woman with snakes coming out of her hair. I think, though, some part of me feels like there's only one Medusa, and so that's kind of the downside of that. So I gave Medusa only a 5, and then Merfolk I only gave a 6. Manticores, 7. I'm going to keep this kind of short here. Manticores, yeah. Liches, 8. Kraken, 8. Basilisk, Kobolds, 7. I get tired of kobolds. They're kind of annoying. Yippee. Basilisk 8, Hydra 10. I think there's a lot more you can do with Hydra, by the way. There can be they should be the new dragon. If there was some creature that the Sci-Fi Channel should focus on more, and everybody else in video games, it's the Hydra, because it's multiple-headed dragons. It's a dragon times 8 or 9 or 10. They don't have to be small. They don't have to be. Don't think of them the way always people think about them. They could be immense. Hippogriffs 6 or 7. After Harry Potter, hippogriff. Harpies 8. I think it's more of a Dungeons and Dragons type of creature. Think just flying hag kind of. Maybe not quite as big. Golem 7. They're essentially just big robots. Ghouls 7. They're undead. They're gross. Ghosts 10. They're kind of just dead humans. Gargoyles 9. They can be funny. They can have all kinds of fun personalities. And angels 10, because essentially they're just the opposite of a demon. Alright, that's my ratings for you guys. Let me know what you think. I'm sure you guys have all kinds of opinions. And if you're Nicolas Cage, by all means, I want to hear from you. Or if you have some that fantasy bugging you. Alright, talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.